I'm with Ann Mason, the Executive Director of the Plymouth Antiquarian Society. And we're at the Spooner House Museum on North Street. Ann, thank you for inviting me in to talk about the museum.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me to share a little bit about our organization and this historic site with your viewers.
So tell me, or tell us about the museum.
So this is one of the three historic houses that the Plymouth Antiquarian Society owns. This is our 18th century house. So it was built around 1749. And we're standing in the formal parlor at the front of the house on North Street. The house is called the Spooner House Museum because the Spooner family actually lived here for almost 200 years. And everything that you see when you come into the house is a Spooner family object. So unlike other sites where artifacts might have been donated by a number of different families and come from a number of different places, we have a complete collection of Spooner family furniture and dishes and personal items and everyday items. And so when you walk through the house, you're actually seeing it as the last resident left it. Just about everything, seeing it as he left it. But the first Spooner who actually lived in the house is here in the portrait behind me. This is Ephraim Spooner.
That's him right there.
Yep, right there. So he was one of Plymouth's most prominent 18th century residents. He actually married Elizabeth Shirtliff in 1764, and she was the one who owned this house. She had inherited it from Hannah Jackson, who was the house's first resident, and Hannah left it to Elizabeth, her granddaughter, and then when Elizabeth and Ephraim got married in 1764, they eventually moved here and started raising their family here. Ephraim owned a store on Main Street in Plymouth. He was a merchant, he was very successful, and he was very well respected. He was a leading member of Plymouth at that time. So he served on the Board of Selectmen. At different points, he was a judge in the Court of Common Pleas, and he was also deacon of the First Church, so held a lot of important positions for making decisions here locally.
Now, is that one of the churches that's up in the square? When you say the first
Right,
church?
so the first church would have been, we have the Mayflower Memorial Meeting House as it's known today. That's the large stone structure in Town Square. That's actually not the meeting house that Ephraim Spooner would have known because that was not built until much later in the 19th century. Ephraim died in 1818, but that is the site of the first meeting house.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, is there any connection between this Spooner and the Spooner that started the Plymouth Cottage?
Absolutely. So we can actually look on the other side of the window over here. And this is a portrait of Bourne Spooner. So Bourne, that's Bourne, Bourne Spooner, was actually the great nephew of Ephraim Spooner who lived in this house. So Bourne did not live in this house, but his father did. His father was Nathaniel Spooner. Nathaniel was Ephraim's nephew. And Ephraim and his wife Elizabeth actually took in Nathaniel when he was a young boy, and he was basically raised and trained as an apprentice of Ephraim's. And then later he goes off and he's a sea captain. He also sells maritime insurance after he retires from the sea. And it's his son, Bourne, who founded the Plymouth Cordage Company in 1824. And then to make matters even more complicated, we have a marriage in the 19th century that cements that family relationship. So Bourne's sister, Mary, actually married Ephraim's grandson, who was another Ephraim. So Mary and Ephraim were second cousins. They get married, and so they reinforce that family tie. And so actually the last the last person who lived in this house was James Spooner, and we have a photograph of him right here on the table, which we can look at. But James Spooner would have been the great nephew of Bourne Spooner because his grandmother was Mary Spooner, Bourne's sister. And this is actually an 1887 high school graduation photograph of James Spooner.
He looks like he's about 30.
Well, he would only have been, just graduating from high school. He was born in 1868. He was the youngest son of his parents, so he was the last child born in this house. And we know that actually his father died in 1888, so right after he graduated from high school, and James actually has to go to work right away. So he's not able to go to college. He starts to work at the Plymouth Cordage Company. He gets an office job as a bookkeeper, and then by the time of his retirement, he's actually the paymaster for the company. So even though James is not a direct descendant of Bourne Spooner, who founded the company, he is very closely connected to that branch of the family through his grandmother.
Right.
And then he goes and works at the company.
Wow. Now, is this one of the old? This is one of the oldest houses on the street. Is it the oldest house on North Street?
Well, probably not. And again, it's hard to date some of these houses because they've changed so much over the years. So even this house, we know it was built, we say 1749, it probably was a little bit earlier in the 1740s, but actually as it stood then, it was just this half of the house that we're standing in. So 2 rooms on the first floor and 2 rooms on the second floor. And then it was Ephraim Spooner, the first Spooner in the house, who doubled the size of the house and expanded it to the east towards the water. So half of this house is 1740s, half of this house is probably more like 1770s.
Right.
And that's true for probably a lot of houses on North Street and elsewhere in Plymouth. You might have, a core that is pretty old, and then as time goes on and people
Families
need
get
more
larger.
space, right. So they need
Right.
room for more children. Or
So tell us, when is the museum open? People come down and meet with your staff and take a tour of the property.
So we have regular hours for tours in the summer, and then in the fall we offer tours by appointment. So if folks go to PlymouthAntiquarian.org, that's our website, you can find information there about this house and our other 2 houses, and then you can send an email or call our office and ask to book a tour.
And
we'll
what are the
get
other
that
2
set up.
houses?
The other 2 houses, we have the 17th century Harlow House, which is on Sandwich Street.
Right.
And then we have our flagship property, the 1809 Hedge House, which is on Water Street right next to Mamma Mia's.
Awesome. Ann, thank you for taking the time. You're a busy lady, and it was great meeting you down here and looking at the house.
Yeah, happy to show it to you. Hope people come in.
Me too. Thanks a lot.